Welcome back to the Miles Ahead podcast. I'm Olivia,
And I'm Heath.
and today we are talking about, dare I say, one of my favorite topics. Um, we are talking about Burning River 100, a race that Heath has ran, I don't know, like 3 times now. Well, I guess the 100 twice.
100 twice. I've had a long history with the race, and we'll talk about that before we kind of get into anything else. But yeah, and actually, it's called the Burning River.
Sorry.
And I've heard people refer to that as the Burning River, and I'm like, why are they calling it that? It's not the name of the race. It's it's Burning River 100, but it's actually the Burning River 100.
It doesn't say it on the shirt, though.
It doesn't say it on the shirt, but
weird.
Either way, yeah.
False advertising on the shirt, then.
Yeah. So I first found out about this race in 2021. Is that when COVID started?
2020 is when COVID started.
2020. Okay, sorry. I first found out about this race in 2020, and I had ran my first ultra at the beginning of 2020. I ran a 50K, and this lady I worked with was like, "Hey, I know you run and stuff. My one buddy posted on Facebook. He's looking for a pacer for this 100-mile race." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, like cool. What's his name? Like, I'll look him up." Just kind of a random thing to do,
Yeah.
but. So I look him up and on Facebook. I'm like, hey, like I can pace you this day. I'm off work. However many miles you need. And he's like, awesome. He's like, if you could pace me for 26 miles from miles 50 to 76, that'd be awesome. I'm like, okay, like cool. Never met this dude before. His name's James Locker. Shout out to him. And he's an older guy. He's like in his 50s, and this was his first 100 he was doing. And so pick him up at mile 50 and stuff. And it was a lot of like walking and jogging. I think we were probably about like 19, 20-minute pace for the majority of the time. But him, tough as nails, like got through it. It was super, super hot that day. And ended up pacing him like into the night. And it was a fun experience. And I'm like, okay, like ultras are cool. Like this is cool seeing people like completely push themselves. And we got to know each other pretty well over those like 8 or 9 hours that we ran together. And he's a cool dude who owns a local tattooing shop. He's a tattoo artist. So yeah, it's called Hammers Tattoos. Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
It's probably like a couple of miles from here only. But sweet dude. So a couple weeks after that, there was the Tuscaloosa 50 miler, which is the first 50 miler I ran. But I signed up for that race because I'm like, hey, ultras are pretty really cool. So did that in 2020. 2021, I'm like, I want to do the 50 miler at Burning River.
Okay.
I'm like, cool course. This would be cool. Was having some injuries on and off before that. And then during the race, like 20 miles in, I started having stomach issues. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I ended up dropping at 26.2.
Nice.
And I'm like, well, shoot. Like, don't love this. This is a cool race, though. So next year, I got asked to run in the relay. They have an 8-person relay. So I ran with a local running group. They're called the Lawn Wranglers from Akron. So nice. I ran, I think we got second overall in our category. So that was a really fun time. Ran a pretty good section of the course. I think I averaged like just a bit over 7. I'm like, this is fun. And then later that day, our buddy Dustin Wogas was running the 100 miler. So I paced him for 20 miles that evening. So I ran 13 in the morning, paced him 20 miles in the evening. I'm like, I got to run this 100 miler.
Yeah.
So that brings us to 2023, and it was my goal race for that year. I'm like, I want to do the 100 miler. So ran Eagle Up as training, ran a couple other races training, trying to get everything kind of in check, and ran the race and ended up getting second overall. I ran a 16:33. Some dude, his name was Justin, completely killed it. I think he ran like a 15:40 something. And beat me. Like there was no chance I was going to beat him. I was in third till I think like mile 76 or something. Ran the best race I could have, but there's no way I was beating him on that day. And I'm like, shoot, like I want to win this race so bad, which kind of brings us to 2024. And it was my goal race from the beginning of the year. And it's kind of what I really cared about.
Yeah. It was a stressful and a fun day for me. Well, basically, for today, we're going to go from the crewing side and also the runner side of what it takes to put on and perform as well as you did that day and win a 100-mile race, because I watched him do it, and I still don't know how he did it. I'm just like, yeah, I guess. Oh, there he is again. All right. Gonna give you some stuff, and oh, there he goes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, if you're actually running, you don't see the whole backside of it.
Yeah.
And I had helped like crew people before, but not majority of the day for a 100 miler
Yeah.
like you guys actually do until I got to obviously crew you this fall.
You're welcome. I brought you into the other side.
I got to see the other side now. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and start out kind of before the race.
Yeah.
With it being my goal race, I ran a bunch of 50Ks like we talked about last episode, kind of training for it. And then I kind of forgot about this until I read my like long race recap I posted on Facebook right before this. But I was having some hamstring issues
Yeah.
like a month and a half before the race. And I went to see Bethany, who I shouted out last video, and she kind of like fixed me. And then a week before the race, I tweaked it again.
Yeah.
And it was when I was lifting, and it was like bugging me. It would bug me when I ran, but it wasn't like, hey, I can't run with this. So I was like, shoot, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
I had been doing a lot of heat training before the race, and I would just wear some hoodies and stuff. Like it was hot out, and I knew it was gonna be super hot out during the race, so I was just wearing as much as I could.
Christmas
and then
sweaters.
Christmas sweaters, yeah, it was a good time. People that drove past me were probably like, well, "What is going on?" And then they're like, well,
Yeah.
that's probably not the craziest thing I've seen today where we live." So. With that, I also tested out a bunch of gear. I got some white arm sleeves. I was practicing wetting those down to try to keep myself cool. The people who sponsored me sent me like just some white T-shirts to wear with their logo on it, which is nice. So I didn't have to wear my black singlet because if it's super hot out, the last thing I want to do is wear any dark colors. So I tried to get as light of colors as I could, except my shorts. They were still black. Bought a vest. Started training with a vest that I was planning on using during the race for a longer section where you don't see crude aid for a while.
For like 16 miles.
Yeah, 16 miles. So that was kind of my training for the race. I'd ran a good amount of 100-mile weeks. Like I was feeling pretty good going in. I didn't run a lot of trails, and a couple weeks before I was going to do a long run on the course just to run some of it, and like halfway through I twisted my like midfoot, and I'm like, okay, well, not doing this anymore. I'd originally, when we went to Colorado, we ran on the Leadville Trail, twisted it right at the end because I was feeling kind of woozy. Just misstepped on a rock, and I'm like, shoot, like I don't want to get hurt before this race.
True.
Like everything else is doing okay going in. Like prepared for this. Last thing I want. So then the day before the race, I get up to do my morning run that morning. And I'm like a half mile in, and my left calf just starts cramping out of nowhere. And I was just on a super easy pace, and this has never happened before where my calf just cramps up like this. I'd like stop and like stretch it out and stuff, and then it was hurting me the rest of the day. And I'm like,
awesome, you know?
Why?
Yeah.
Right before my goal race, why is this happening?
And then when we were cutting the watermelon, what'd you do?
Yeah, so I was cutting watermelon, and Liv's like, don't cut yourself. And as soon as she says that, I cut the tip of my finger. And, like, it wasn't super, super bad, but, like, it cut a chunk out, and, like, I just put the flat back over, like, ran it underwater, and I'm like, I'm going to sleep. Like, I cannot have anything else bad happen to me today. So I put a Band-Aid on it, put some ointment on it, took some melatonin, and fell asleep, like, at, like, 8 p.m. or something.
Yeah, I thought he was kidding with me when he said... oh, I cut my finger, and he started, like, jumping up and down, and I was like, oh, ha. But then I, like, looked, and I was like, oh, nope, that's quite a lot of blood, okay.
Yeah.
So, that was, fun. I told you to not do it, but you were actively doing it, and I was like, told you to not do it.
You should have told me a little bit earlier.
Literally, like, a half second earlier.
I was like, I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't do that.
But whatever sleep meds we took that night were strong. It hit, yeah, it was strong.
I was out. Thank goodness. And woke up 2 a.m., showered, had some stomach issues like I normally do race morning, take some Imodium, ate my box of Mike and Ike's, drank my Kickstart. Luckily, the start line's only like a half hour from where we live, so that's clutch getting to sleep at home the night before.
You were listening to some like motivational stuff at some point.
That sounds about right, yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, it's that type of morning. That makes sense.
Yeah, race morning.
Yeah. I went to sleep, I don't know, at least an hour or two after Heath because I, like, wanted to make sure we had everything everywhere and was, like, making treats for, like, the crew cars and, like, wanted to make sure I knew where everything was and, like, double-check the list of everything that we needed. And I was like, I want everything to be nice and clean. And, so I, like, took the sleep meds the same time Heath did and then, like, powered through. I was like, wow, I'm so tired. This is crazy. I was like, this is great. But I think after like an hour, like I think you're supposed to take it like 15 minutes before you go to sleep.
Oh, really?
And like an hour later, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm kind of fine now. Like I'm kind of sleepy. So I was like, do I take another? Do I not? I don't think I did. And then I woke up like a half hour before you did. I don't know why. I think to like shower and get ready before you got up. And I was like, all right, well, today's the day. I don't think I jumped out of bed that morning. I'll be honest.
Did you?
It was like 1:30 in the morning. Jumped out of bed. I was like, today's the day. It's literally the day. So
I'm not a morning person, so every day I race up that it's like, or I wake up. Just normally I'm like, I don't want to be here right now. And then after like 3 minutes, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm fine. But like,
Yeah.
I remember that morning, I'm like, and then the morning of very hungry, I'm like, I don't want to run 100 miles today. Like, I just don't want to. So
Yeah.
that's when you kind of listen to the motivational stuff. You're like, okay, I've been training all year for this. Guess I got to do it.
like morning of Rabbit Raccoon, I was like, why am I doing this again?
Yeah. So if you have those feelings,
It's
it's
okay.
normal. Yeah, it's normal. Like,
It was like 3 in the morning, so I was
Yeah.
like, this is a normal thing to be feeling before you're gonna be up for another X amount of hours.
yeah, and I've been super blessed that Mom and Seth, whenever they crew me, they always handle that side of it, so I don't have to worry about kind of making sure I have everything in line other than what I need to carry. So with Olivia and the gang as well, like they kind of took care of all that and kind of take some pressure off me, which is nice.
Yeah. Make sure you had that watermelon, even though, plot twist, did you eat any of the watermelon?
I didn't have any
No.
watermelon that day. But it's better to have things
Yeah,
that
that's
you
true,
might
yeah.
want rather than not to have things that you end up wanting.
That's why I had like extra socks and extra shirts and like extra everything. I was like, I don't know. You never know.
Yeah.
Didn't need any.
And the
of it,
race
thank
director
goodness.
asked me before the race, because I ran a couple other races, he's like, hey, is there anything you want us to make sure we have at aid stations? And I'm like, ice.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of my strategy going in. I knew it was going to be super hot, so I wanted to stay cool and do everything I could to do that. So part of that was with what I was wearing. And then another thing that I didn't talk about yet is wearing an ice bandana,
Yeah.
which I think I initially put on at mile 50, because that's when it
Yeah.
started getting hot. So
And what was your motto going in before the race?
it's a good day to have a great day.
That was one of them. And also, I hope it's 100 degrees.
I hope it's 100 degrees. Yeah, I think I posted that on Strava
I
a couple
heard it
times.
so many times.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I did. Like, hey,
Yeah.
anything that can give me an advantage, I think I can handle the heat better than the majority of people. So why not? Hope
Why
it's
not?
raining. Hope it's 100 degrees. Like,
Yeah.
probably not together. Like, that probably cancels out some of it.
Yeah, I guess that'd be an interesting day then. No,
It would be.
interesting enough of a day.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So 4 a.m. start
4 a.m. start. So we get to the start line.
at like 3:30. I want to say we left the house at like a little after 3, maybe.
Yeah, probably, yeah, somewhere around there, 3:40 something. Walk up there. It's in the middle of Front Street in Cuyahoga Falls. See a bunch of my friends, buddies, talk to them, do a quick prayer with Liv. It was like 50 degrees. I was like
Yeah.
chilly though. I had my arm sleeves on and stuff. I was just like, oh, this is like nice.
It
Once
was
I get
nice,
running,
yeah.
I know it's gonna be
Warm.
good. So then the gun goes off.
Yeah.
And I started out pretty quick. I wanted to average like sub 8s on the flats at the beginning because it's on a road. So I start out and no one passes me, which
Yeah.
is weird because the year before I started out at the same pace and like 20 or 25 people like passed me right off the rip. And when that happened last year, I'm like, there's no way like there's this many just elite people that are like, you know,
Yeah.
it's the same. That's just people going out too fast. So I was expecting the same thing to happen,
Yeah.
and no one passed me. And I'm like, this is weird. So I'm like,
Yeah.
watching my watch, watching my pace. I'm like, okay, it's like somewhat seems intentional that no one's
Yeah.
passing me. Everyone's
Mind
just
games.
staying in line. And so we're running, and then eventually, like 1.2 miles into the race, Alec goes off and passes me. He's another local guy. Shout out to him. He's a beast. And I'm like, okay, he's a great runner. He's probably going to run a bit more aggressive than me, so I'm fine with that. I knew what my race strategy was. I wanted to run 7:10 first half and then try to run like an 8:10 second half.
Yeah.
I figured I'd try to get a lot of good miles in before it got super hot out, and then just try to tough through the second half because everyone slows down in ultras.
Yeah.
Or if you weren't, you probably weren't pushing yourself to your full
Literally.
potential the first half. So I was happy with that, happy with running my own race, and no one else passed me then. I'm like, that's weird. There's like
Yeah.
3 people out running with Alec, and they just kind of stayed with me. I'm like, huh,
Huh.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So about 3 or 4 miles in, we start to get onto a trail. It's a bit of a steep descend, and there's roots. Trip, eat crap. Luckily, one of the guys behind me picks me up and helps me get back up. I'm back on my feet, and luckily I didn't hurt anything. So we're running, and I'm running with this guy, named River,
Oh
and
yeah.
the other guy's named
Owen.
Owen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a young guy from the area. I think he lives in North Carolina now, but he had ran the race before, so I'm like running with him, and we're kind of talking some. And later in the race, Owen tells me, "Yeah, my plan is to stay with you the first half because I always go out too fast and I'm terrible at pacing." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, that kind of makes sense why you didn't like pass me
Yeah,
straight off the
true.
rip." So he was just like staying with me whatever pace I was going for a while, and we ended up probably running 20 or 30 miles together. And
Yeah.
River and I probably ran like 20 or 30 miles together at some points. We'd be jockeying back and forth for
Yeah.
position. And for its aid station, I think it's like 9 miles in,
7.5.
7.5. Okay, North Hopkins.
Yeah.
So getting that is just nothing gone wrong at that point other than falling. So just switch out my drinks and everything. I
Yeah.
was using mostly Tailwind.
We literally just like pass you a new bottle and you're off.
Yeah, you guys would pass me 2 new bottles,
Yeah.
and then we'd kind of go off, which was nice.
Yeah. So from the start, once the gun goes off, what I did, you go off, I'm like, yeah, woo, go Heath. We like run back to the car because since it is only 7.5 miles, I was like, all right, we need to like get there.
A lot of it's road too, so
Yeah, I was like, it's not gonna take us that much time. And I think it was almost like a 15-minute drive. So I was like, all right, we gotta go because we parked like almost a quarter mile down from the start, if not a little bit further. So
and those first couples, it's gonna be super congested.
yeah, exactly. The first couple of aid stations when everybody's like trying to get there. Luckily, I think I'd been to almost every one of the parking lots that the aid stations were at before, which made it nice. But I'm like driving to this aid station. I'm like, this is not the right way. This is not the right aid station. I don't know why, but my whatever I put into the GPS was not the right aid station, and like luckily I called it, and I was like, we need to be going the other way. We need to go, and so I was like turned. I was
Were
like,
you and Mom and Seth all together in one car?
No,
Oh.
they were driving behind me, so like luckily I don't think they noticed. But I was like, I'm just gonna turn here, and we're gonna be like 4 minutes later than we were supposed to be. So like, it wasn't that big of a deal. But I was like, I'm so glad that I'd been there before and like knew where I was going.
You were trying to sabotage my race that early.
That early, yeah. So, but we made it with
Yeah.
plenty of time, and it was cold. I was still wearing like a jacket, and I was like, wow, this is perfect weather.
It's perfect,
Yeah.
for sure. So speaking of that, like the guy I was running with, Owen, poor guy, his family was like supposed to meet him at like the first like couple of aid stations, and he was like switch out his watch because he forgot his, so he's wearing his sister or something, and he couldn't find him for like the first like 3 or 4 aid stations.
Yeah.
Which I felt terrible, and like they were supposed to have his nutrition and stuff, and
Yeah.
I think they ended up being there, but they just didn't see him or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I mean,
they
it was
missed.
dark.
It
So.
was dark, and it was kind of hard to see if you weren't really, really out there. But
Yeah. Luckily, like Heath was in all white, so I was like, oh, there he is.
yeah, or in the bucket hat.
It was honestly really convenient because it would be hard.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know what they're wearing or something like that, then that could be much more difficult. So you come through, and I like noticed. I was like, I wonder why his arm sleeve's a little like it looks a little bit darker, but like it could just be dark, like whatever. And off you go. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Next stretch was what 7.5 to 13.1.
Yeah.
How was I don't know what that stretch is. Oh, that stretch is all trail, I think, right?
Almost, because you have like 2 miles of towpath right before the aid station.
Okay.
But you go through like the Mingo trails, and the backside of Sand Run. So it's a lot of downhill, but there's also some uphill. And I told myself like early, like I'm fine with power hiking early.
Yeah, I like it.
That was one of the things I learned from those 50Ks is it doesn't really slow you down that much to power hike rather than wasting energy trying to kill yourself on the uphills and then having to recover on the downhills and the flats rather than being able to run those hard. So I was power hiking early, and that was where like Owen was like, he's like, oh, I want to go faster, but I don't want to pass you and stuff. I'm like, you're more than welcome to pass me. Like, run your race, man. But I'm still running with those guys. And then we got into 13.1, and I'm like, I got to use the restroom. So hop into the restroom. Luckily, there's restrooms there. Came back out. You guys were like, hey, do you want your headphones? Because I had said, like, I was going to grab my headphones decently early on. And I'm like, no, I'm running with people, so I don't really need my headphones.
You're like sprinting away, and I'm like, headphones, and you're like, bye. But sadly, we didn't have any tri-slide for you, and I still feel bad about that to this day, because you wanted to use the bathroom, and I was like, I am so sorry, it's way too early on for you to start chafing.
Yeah.
Tee-hee.
No, you're good. Yeah, legit, if you use the bathroom during like an ultra, like spray yourself back down with whatever lube or tri-slide that you use, or you're probably going to chafe
It's
from
very,
that. Very helpful.
smart idea. And at this point, as you leave the aid station, I turn to your mom and Seth, and I'm like, he fell. I was like, he is covered in dirt on one side. And I was like, ha ha ha, he's fine.
And it
This
was.
is great. Yeah, you were fine. Yeah.
I wasn't limping or anything.
No, you looked fine. I was just like, why are you covered in dirt? You wanted to be an all white, and now you're half. But then we didn't see you for what, 9 miles? So we had a little bit
until Oak Hill.
Yeah. I don't know what that section is either. I was just driving boop 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 boop.
There's some on road. The majority of it's on trail, which I don't really remember anything climactic happening in that part. I think I was still running with the same guys. Came to that aid station. Just switched out my waters real quick. Sprayed myself with some Tri-Slide. I wiped myself with some wet wipes real quick, and then
I think you put your sunglasses on too.
I think I did put my sunglasses on. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is the one where like I have a video of like you and Owen like sprinting into the aid station.
Yeah.
And we meant to grab your headlamp then, and we didn't.
No, we didn't. So I was still rocking my headlamp, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Until we get into the next aid station, which that was a pretty chill section as well. Like I don't think anything really happened there. I was still running with the same guys.
Yeah.
Just very anticlimactic. At 34, I was planning on grabbing my vest because you don't see aid again until 50.1 or 50.5. And I knew there was a bunch of non-crude aid station between that, but I wanted to be able to carry more water because I'm like, it might be hot out then. But it was still super chill out, so I didn't grab my vest. I'm like, I don't want to wear my vest. Like, it might weight me down some.
Super chill as in it was like, I don't know, upper 70s, 80s?
I don't think it was that hot. No, it wasn't that hot until like afternoon.
Okay, that's fair.
Because you gotta think, it was still super early. It was probably only like 9 o'clock by this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I leave my vest, and then Seth's like, hey, your headlamp.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he like just taking it off of me in the video.
And like pouring water on
water on me.
The aid station before this was the one that you like started running just into the trees. And I was like, Heath, right. And you were like, And it's funny because after you got on the trail, this lady like is yelling over to me. She's like, where was he going? I was like, I don't know. He was just going into no man's land, literally forging his own path.
Yeah.
So that gave us all a nice little laugh. I appreciated that.
And Ben, my buddy, was like recording. He was going to do a documentary. He accidentally ended up deleting all the film from it. But like I had tasted my tailwind. I'm like, this doesn't seem as strong as normal. I usually put 3 scoops in. So I'm like, hey, can you make sure they're putting 3 scoops in?
Yeah.
And like we corrected that. Luckily, early enough. But I'm like, I've drank so much tailwind. I can tell this is a bit less flavorful.
Less orange flavored than usual.
Yeah.
But it was funny because, like, he came back and he was like, I think he said something about, like, the tailwind needs more. And I was like, he put 2 scoops on the list, but he usually puts in 3, so that's when we started putting
Did I put
3.
2 lists? Oh, I think I put 2 lists because I wanted that for the bottles that went into the vest because they're like 8 less ounces and stuff.
And you're just copying and pasting, right?
Yeah,
so
that might have been.
That was probably it, yeah. I got the list of everything you wanted at each aid station. And also, by this point, you had stopped
I just
with
put
the honey
tailwind
singer
and
waffles.
ice in bottles and then vest bottle, 2 scoops of tailwind. So I guess I didn't put how many in the normal bottles. So
it's okay. We figured it out with less than a 50K in, I want to say.
Did you say I wasn't eating honey singer waffles?
You stopped eating them by like maybe the 4th aid station. You said no more.
Okay, it might have been because my stomach issues I had. I didn't remember that, but that makes sense now.
Yeah.
So I was trying it wasn't new, I'd tested out during training. What are those?
The Precision?
Gels? Precision gels. And they're cool because they have ones that are 360 calories that have like a twist top.
Yeah.
So those are nice for between the aid stations that I didn't see them for a while. And then I was also taking in the glucose gels, tailwind.
That was it.
Pretty much that.
You had salt tabs.
Salt tabs.
Yeah.
Chewable salt tabs I was taking as well.
It was fun because, like, at this point, there were just, like, so many bottles that he'd been using because I didn't want to give you dark-colored bottles because, like, some of them have, like, the dark
handles.
So I was like, nope, not these. But I would just, like, fill up the little baggies with, like, meds, and I was like, just don't count how many he's already taken.
Yeah.
More salt tabs for him. It's hot, so.
So they were just putting a bunch in little bags so I could take them whenever I needed. And I don't think I was taking an insane amount.
A normal amount for you.
A normal amount for me. And with like the wearing the right dress and stuff, does that really affect your race a ton? Probably not, but it mentally helped me feel like I was going to do better. and I was going to deal with the heat better and stuff like that.
But like,
If I was wearing black, I would just be like, oh, I'm
oh
so
yeah.
hot because I'm wearing black. But
like
I'm
so
like,
much of it is exposed. Like I feel like on the
it
bike
is.
and hike you'd be in the sun,
Yeah.
so it makes sense to wear lighter colors.
Yeah, I think it could, with the amount of heat it's giving off
Yeah.
and stuff, for like someone at my pace, like it might affect you 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that's possible over
That's-
100 mile.
that's
Like
possible, yeah.
What, like 1% of the race or maybe 2% of the race?
Yeah.
Someone can fact check me on that. Maybe that's a lot higher percentage. No, probably not, because if you're running 10-minute miles, you're at like a 16 hours. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
1 to 2%.
But what? Then we get into mile 50.
50. So on this course, I was wearing the Hoka Mach 6s,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is a
Road
road
shoe.
running shoe. This course is 70% trails and 30% bike and hike / towpath. And I was like, I don't want to wear trail shoes on that much road and that much like towpath. And none of the trails are super technical. So I had wore trail shoes the year before because I had to, because it was super rainy the first
Yeah.
like 6 hours of that race. But this year I thought those killed my thighs. So I'm like, definitely want to wear these road shoes. I'm super happy I did.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm still in like 3rd or 4th position. And Alex, way ahead of everybody. And Eric, who ended up getting 3rd, he passed me at some point. He was like
Going
cooking
into
on
50?
the towpath. No, this is before 50. This is probably
Okay,
somewhere
okay.
in like the 20s or 30s.
Okay.
And he passed me, and I ended up catching back up to him, I think around like mile 38. He was cooking on the towpath, and I think it was right after 26 he passed me. But I'm like, okay, he can go. Like, I don't want to run like 7:20s on this towpath right
Yeah,
now. I'm
that's
like,
fair.
I'm feeling good around 8-minute miles. So he kind of went off, and he actually got 3rd place the year before too.
Yeah.
So I catch up to him around 38. We're talking, and he's a retired triathlete. Like, he used to be sponsored back in the day. I think he's like early 40s now, but
Yeah.
absolute beast. Had the most beautiful running form I've ever seen in an ultra runner. It just looks so efficient and stuff. I'm like,
Amazing.
that's awesome. So I passed him on the one trail section eventually, after we ran for a while, and I'm like, okay, he's probably going to catch me on the bike and hike. So the bike and hike's between miles 45 and 55. It's asphalt, just pretty flat the whole way, and it's pretty exposed. It might end up being 12 miles, between 10 and 12. But it was hot. So one of the reasons I wanted to start the race out fast is to try to get off that before noon at mile 55. So I get on the bike and hike. I'm like, well, Eric's probably going to pass me back since he was really cooking on the towpaths and stuff.
Yeah.
So didn't end up seeing him. I'm at like mile 49 and a half. And at that point, I see Alec, who had already been out of the mile 50 aid station, was heading back out with our one buddy, Cody, who was pacing him.
Because it's an out and back. 50
Yeah,
miles out,
it's an
50
out
miles
and
back.
Yep. And so I see them, like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not super far behind. Get into the aid station. I forgot how far around the park you actually have to go. So I ended up being a bit farther behind than I thought. I think it was like 15 minutes behind is what they told me.
Yeah.
So at that point, Dustin, our buddy, starts pacing me. The aid station at this point, they're just soaking me in water, using like ice sponges and water to soak me down, which was super helpful. And I felt really good at this point. I'm like, hey, I ran the race I wanted the first half. I split exactly, I think, a 7:10:19. I'm like, this is where I want to be.
Literally, exactly.
Exactly where I want to be. And I'm like, I'm feeling good. I think Alex started out pretty aggressive. So I'm like, I'm going to start the second half out aggressive and try to catch him as quick as possible. And so go out with Dustin. We do a good job on the bike and hike. I think we averaged like 8 flat on that. I'm like, okay, I had to make up some ground there. Like, just kept doing everything I needed to do. And at mile 60, my quads just started killing me, which happened the last time I ran at mile 56, but I thought that was just from wearing the Tro shoes on all like the hard surfaces and stuff. But it wasn't.
Happened
It
again,
wasn't. I'm like, shoot. And they ended up hurting the rest of the race.
Was this still on, like, the bike and hike?
No, this is after we got off. It was like
Okay.
mile 60, so we were off the bike and hike for 4 or 5 miles, and I'm like, shoot, there goes my quads.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter if I was walking or running as fast as
Yeah.
I could. They hurt the same amount, which was good because
Yeah.
it encouraged me to, like, hey,
Keep
get
going.
done faster.
But yeah, I think we started rolling you out at mile 50 too. Like mile 50 is when we first started to roll you out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stretch between, I don't know, whatever it was, 36 and 50 was quite a long time, or it might have been even earlier. So I think like Ben and I went and got a cup of coffee.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, 36 to 50. Yeah, that's a 15 or 14 mile
yeah,
section. So
it's quite a while. So we had time, and I think that's when we met up with like Dustin and his family came, and they brought ice, which was really helpful.
yeah,
Like we had our nice little spread up, but it was once again like we parked so far away because people from the 50 miler were going to be finishing there, and then from the marathon would be finishing there too. So the parking lot was packed. But we were there for like maybe an hour before you got there, so we had plenty of time. But it was just we had to haul everything
yeah,
up to wherever. Because it was weird with where they wanted the crew to be. Like there was a really specific place, but I still felt like we were in the wrong place.
really.
I was like, why are we behind this fence? But also, it just didn't make really any sense. I was confused.
Yeah, because it was also the 50-mile finish
Yeah, true.
right there. So it was like, hey, your runner has to come out behind this little fence thing, and there was an
Yeah.
opening, which is probably like wild if there was a lot of people there. Like they were so spread
Oh, I
out
bet,
whenever
yeah.
I was there, so it didn't really matter
Of time,
somewhat.
yeah. But yeah, that was, and yeah, we were just dousing you.
And it was funny that there's this guy at the mile 50 aid station who I kind of know from like Facebook and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, like don't worry, he's gonna slow down. Like he's way ahead of course record pace by an hour. And even though like I'm 50 miles in the race, I'm like, course record pace is 14:12. I'm like, he's not ahead of it by an hour. He came through at 6:55. I'm like, he's just a bit ahead of it. But I don't know why. I was like, no, he's not.
Yeah. The video of that is so funny. You're like, no?
No.
Like getting rolled out, like ice is being thrown on you. Or like putting a new ice band down, and you're like, actually, this would be the pace he needs to be going at. And I was like, Heath, go run. Then again, you're in the aid station for like less than 5 minutes. So.
Oh, I was probably in there
Way
less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were super efficient, which is another place that I think I can take advantage, is just being efficient at the aid station. So.
Yeah.
So at mile like 61, you can look through the trees and you can see the 64 aid station, but you have to do
okay.
like a loop around.
Gotcha.
And at that point, like Dustin was behind me. He's like, I'll catch up in a minute as I went like up this hill. I'm like, okay, cool. He's probably using the restroom or something. You're seeing people, since it's an out and back, a lot of 50
yeah.
milers, and you're seeing a lot of 100-mile people as well coming back. So it's a cool experience seeing all those people that are running as well and giving each other kudos and stuff. But then like after like a couple minutes, I'm like, where's Dustin? And like I could hear him screaming in the distance, yeah, keep going. And I'm like, what happened? So I'm like running. I thought like, oh my gosh, I hope nothing happened to his kids or something.
Yeah.
Or Aaron, and he didn't just like take the cut up and
Yeah.
like go to the aid station, because he never caught back up to me.
Yeah, and you don't have your phone with you.
I don't have
right?
my phone with me. Yeah. So I finally get to the aid station. I'm like, where's Dustin? Is
That was
he
the
okay?
first thing. Yeah, you said you're like, where's Dustin?
Yeah, and Aaron's like, no, he's okay. He's fine. He just
Yeah.
wasn't feeling good or something, and ended up finding out he like didn't eat that morning or something. Got super lightheaded with how
Yeah.
hot it was. Wasn't taking in enough calories or something over that 14-mile section.
Yeah.
And we were still going pretty fast. So
Yeah, true.
something that can happen. So at that point, I pick up my buddy Nick.
Yeah, Nick was so excited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was so great. He was like, I want to get here and we're ready to go.
Yes.
Yeah, it was so wholesome.
Yes, and we did. And Nick's not a trail runner,
Yeah,
kind of by any means. He's mainly a road runner. He's a
really
beast.
fast, yeah.
Whenever he paced me at Eagle Up the year before, he ran 25 miles and only had water and barely had any water, and it was like 95 degrees that day. Just an absolute machine. But
Yeah.
we're running, and there's like points. I'm feeling really bad at this point, because
Yeah.
you're kind of in that middle section where, hey, you're 64 miles in, but you still have 36
Yeah.
to go. Like 2/3 of the way done, but you still have well over a marathon to go.
Yeah.
And I'm going as fast as I can because we're still chasing Alec. I think we might have made up a little ground by this point, but not much.
No, I think this is the section that like
I think
you
we
had
fell
lost
back during
some
this
time,
section. Yeah, so feeling like crap during the section, and Nick's like, hey, like, if you can go faster, we need to go faster. I'm like, dude, I can't. Like, this
Yeah.
is all I got on these flats and stuff. He's like, gotcha, no
Okay.
worries. Yeah. So we hit the non-crude aid station at like 74. And at that point, I think I was like 20 minutes behind. We'd lost
Yeah.
ground.
Well,
And,
because we're at the aid station already, so we can see when first place comes in.
Yeah.
And I would just like stood and I was like, all right, Heath, any minute now. But it's stressful because like since he doesn't have his phone, like there's live tracking, but like obviously every so often. And I think the service there wasn't great, so I was like, I think he's maybe came through, but seeing that like slowly trickle in, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, we're good.
And the timing mats are not at any of the crewed aid
Which is
stations.
interesting, yeah.
Because none of the crewed aid stations are where the relay exchanges, so
Okay.
they're in line with all the relay exchange
Gotcha.
zones,
That makes sense.
which makes sense. So at 76 or 74, I realized that I was like 20 minutes behind and we had fell
Yeah.
back some, and I'm like, okay, just got to get to the next aid station. Like he's probably feeling it too.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
but
think
it's
if
never good to lose ground,
no.
especially being down behind 20 minutes with 26 miles to go. I'm like, hey, this like might not happen today. Like I'm gonna run the best race I can for the rest of the time, but like
Yeah.
I might not win this race.
Well, and it was at the aid station before. Sorry, Alec, if you're listening to this, but he had like left the aid station and was like telling his pacer, like, yeah, no, my legs don't feel that great. And I was like, somebody tell Heath it's okay, it's okay. But also, like, he had gone so fast. And knowing him, he probably ran a 100-mile race, like, the weekend before, so, like, it makes sense.
Probably he runs so many races, and I don't know how his body deals with it. Like it's insanely impressive,
And, like,
and it's not like he just it's not like he just runs them and like runs easy, goes all out for every race, which you love to see. But then we came into Oak Hill at 77.8, and that was where we dropped Nick off.
Yeah.
Insanely fast aid station. Here's a video of it. It's beautiful. It's 16 seconds. I'm in and out. They change out my ice bandana. Like I think you might roll out my legs.
No,
like,
you said no roller.
no roll. Yeah, okay. So they give me my bottles. Seth tells me, he's like, "Hey, you're 16 minutes behind." He's like, "If you're gonna go and like win this thing, you got to go now."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, like
now's the time.
now's the time. Like it's kind of past the time. I need to go." But Carlo, our buddy, shout out, starts pacing me. Then he's super motivational. I wanted him whenever I planned out my pacers to be at this point in the race because like he's super motivational. He helped me through it, Eagle Up, with like talking me through it and stuff. So I'm like, hey, if I want him anywhere, it's gonna be right here. It's gonna be best in line. Like Dustin, Nick, like they're great and stuff, but like Carlo's like a motivational speaker.
Well,
Those
Carlo
two
was
dudes
like
are
pointing out
tough as
like,
nails and stuff. And yeah, Carlo was literally calling out like, "Watch out, there's a route here. Watch out, there's a route here." The whole time, like, "Hey, run on this part of this cornfield because it's a bit flatter and less roots and stuff." And great dude, but coaching me through this whole thing, like we were trying to book it everywhere we could, and we didn't know how much ground we had made up, if we'd made up any. We could see when the tracking updates came in because all my pacers had their phone and stuff, but we didn't know where we were at. And then
leaving that last aid station, like I had asked Nick, like, "Hey, how was he this last section?" Because he was like rear-ending, ready to go, and he was like,
yeah,
he was, he's moving, but like he's hurting." And I was like, "I don't want to hear that. Please don't tell me that."
Yeah, and that's the thing, of course.
But like obviously,
you're hurting 70 miles into a race.
But it's funny because I'm like, I don't understand why he's slowing down. Just like keep running, and I'm like, Olivia, you've literally been there. You've done this. Obviously, he's slowing down. I was like, take a little like chill pill. You're okay. And like I'm driving with our buddy Ben, and he's like, I think we're heading to like the mile 77 aid station. He's like, I don't know if he's gonna catch up. And I was like, I don't need this negativity. He's like, I just don't understand why you're stressed. And I was like, obviously I'm stressed. I'm very incredibly stressed at this point. But yeah, luckily like we were there when Alec came in, and like all of your buddies know Alec, so they like said, "Hey, good job." And he was in and out. I think he spent a little longer time in the Oak Hill aid station at 77 than he had at the other ones, but still like he wasn't there super long.
Yeah. So then we're about...
Oh, and I told Carlo, I said, "Hey, no offense, Carlo, but like, I got a lot of faith and trust in you right now. You gotta kind of pick things up, like get him to go."
Yeah.
He's like, "All right, I'm gonna need a raise after this." I was like, that's fine, like whatever. Yeah. And off you guys went. He literally like tripped and like ran out of the aid station because you were just like, "Oh, we're going."
Yeah. So about 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles out of the Bunsell aid station, which is at like 77.8 or something.
Butsum is at 87?
87, yeah, 87, not 77. We get a call, Carla gets a call, and they're like, "Hey, Alec just left here. He's walking out of the aid station. He's like not feeling good."
Yeah.
And I'm like, sucks, but like here's my opportunity to make up ground if I'm going to make up ground. So kind of booked into that aid station. still feeling like garbage. They like
Yeah.
roll out my legs. There's a video of it. I'm just in
You
immense
look,
pain.
yeah,
But I'm like, hey, you like gotta go.
yeah,
And Seth, one of his things like late in the race is like he's literally just pushes me,
yeah.
like gets me kind of kickstart out the aid stations. Here you go, here on your way. You're yelling, you're not walking, and I'm like, I understand I'm not walking, so a flat section I need to take advantage. So,
But I think Carlo shared his location with me, so like we could like see how close you were to the aid station. So
oh,
we're
nice,
just
nice.
like, all right, they're coming, they're on the road. They're like they're so close, they're almost here. So
That's cool.
that was nice, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that aid station was wild because like at that point you had made up a fair amount of time in that section.
Yeah, I think I was like 13 minutes behind, so probably made up 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And then like 2 or 3 miles later, there's a non-crew aid station. It's also a relay exchange zone. So at that point, I dumped some water on my head. I think I get some more water because I'm just drinking a ton. And we go over the timing mat, and I was down by 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we're making up a ton of ground.
Yeah.
Like we got to go. So
Because like this late in the race, like making up that amount of time is like an interesting thing to. Well, like obviously it happens because people are slowing down, but
Yeah.
like 7 minutes is like a long time, or that's like a far time to be ahead. Like
yeah. If everyone's moving okay, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like if you have a 20
It
minute
all
mile, it
depends,
all
yeah.
goes away. But if you're keeping,
with pace,
yeah, you have to make up 30 or 40 seconds per mile.
yeah,
So, well, that's depending. So after like a mile, maybe a mile and a half, we end up seeing Alec and his pacer right before we cross the bridge on the backside of Mingo. So we end up catching him and passing him. Probably about I don't know 9 miles to go at that point. Like
9 miles to go until the end. You had like 11, I thought.
yeah, somewhere 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, because you hadn't came into the North Hawkins aid station at 92.6.
Yeah, but it's not super far from
Oh,
there.
okay.
So
Okay. So maybe yeah.
yeah, probably about 10 miles to go. So we passed him stuff like, I'm like, hey, hang in there, like having a great race. And he said positive things to me as well. We passed him, we're going down the hill, and Carlos starts playing Many Men by 50 Cent on his phone. And he's just all hyped. And
Yeah.
I'm hyped too, but I'm also like, Alec is a dog.
Yeah.
Like, if he gets a second win, like this, I didn't win the race yet.
Yeah,
There's still
exactly.
10 miles to go. Things can happen to me. Like,
Yeah,
foot on the pedal, and I also don't know where this Eric dude is. Like,
Yeah.
he's a beast as well.
true.
I wasn't worried about where he was. I was just trying to catch Alec this whole
Yeah.
time, so I didn't know if he was making up ground or what was happening. There's a flat section right before his big hilly section up to North Hopkins. That hilly section, I had to walk the majority of it because my legs are
That's fair.
dead, and it's
Yeah.
pretty aggressive up hills. Like, there's little parts you can jog in between, which I was, but we get up there.
What was interesting is, so we're in a group chat, like Heath's pit crew, and Carlos like sending us video updates, which was nice, but he sent us one and he was like, we're out here taking souls with zero context. And we're all texting like, does that mean he passed him? Does that mean he didn't pass him? Does that mean you're close? Like, what does that mean? And like, I can hear people like yelling like at the aid station, like in the distance, like people are yelling, and I'm like, that kind of sounds like Carlo, but like I don't know. There's a ton of people on the trails just like hiking. I'm like, it could just be a hiker. I was like, I don't even know what direction they're supposed to be coming from because like the weeds were like really high up, and I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and like pray and stress and pray and see if Heath's gonna come out of here first. So that was a very stressful time for me, but
And with these races, like, the whole taking souls things by Goggins, like, it's all this mental game with yourself, like,
Yeah.
to keep yourself going and stuff
True.
like that. It's like, yeah, you're against everyone else, but, like, you're also mainly against yourself, like,
True.
to keep yourself going, and, like, whatever you can tell yourself to mentally keep yourself going.
literally,
And,
yeah.
like, one of the things I always tell myself, because Coach Lavery told me to say is, like, I'm getting stronger every single mile. Like,
I like that.
am I? I don't know. Feels good to say.
Yeah, it does.
Feels really good to say 90 miles into a race. But with like 10 miles to go, I can mentally talk myself through it. Like, hey, I run 10 miles pretty much every day of my life. Like,
Yeah.
what is 10 more miles?
Exactly.
So I get into the aid station, have some Mountain Dew Kickstart. I remember.
No, you said you didn't have any kickstart that whole day. Your mom asked if you wanted kickstart, but you didn't have any.
Okay, guess I didn't have any Kickstart. But they roll me out. I'm like not sure how much of a lead I have. get out of there relatively quickly, change my
Yeah.
ice bandana, get soaked down again.
You had icy hot, I think, at this aid station?
Yeah,
Or
icy
no?
hot on the hamstrings and
Yeah.
the quads for sure. And
And
then
then
get out
off,
of there pretty
yeah,
quickly.
off you went. You
Still
were
with
in,
Carlo at this point.
yeah.
So we're running. There's a little trail section, so we do that, and then we get on this towpath section. And through some parks and stuff, they have those little like exercise things you can do. It's like, hey, stop here and do 10 push-ups, or hey, stop here and do 5 jumping jacks. So there was one that was like a pull-up bar. So Carlo was like running ahead of me. I'm dying at this point. He just gets over there. He's like doing a couple pull-ups. I'm
As
just
he
like
should.
laughing. Yeah, as he should. Well, you gotta do something whenever I'm slowing you down back here. But
That's amazing.
so we are like 5 miles out. Was at the last aid station?
Last aid station is 96.1.
Yeah, 90. So we get there, and it's where I pick up Seth, my brother. And I'm like, hey, like, how much of a lead do I have? And Brenton's like, well, we stayed at the last aid station, and Alex sat down, and he didn't leave until we left, but it might have been strategy or something. I'm like, well, that's a dumb strategy. Like, if like that's a mental thing, like, oh, I'm gonna wait and then I'm gonna sprint off. Like,
Yeah.
that's not gonna make up time.
And once again, the video, you were just like, no, why would he do that? I was like, well, I think somebody's 96 miles into a race right now.
Yeah. I might have been, I don't know, a bit grumpy. Like, I wasn't
Which is
saying like a
fair.
negative thing to
No.
Brenton. Like, I appreciated being there and like getting the intel for
Yeah,
us. That
seriously.
was
And
definitely
what's-
nice because I was what, like 20 or
I think it was at this point like a 20-minute lead.
yeah, with
by-
5 miles to go. So
Yeah.
I was feeling good about that because the last whole 5 miles or 4 miles is like 90% trail.
Yeah. And it was so nice to have Brenton and Sarah stay back and like kind of see where they were at, or like where Alec, and I don't even know if he stayed long enough to see where third was, but
Yeah,
like to have that intel since there wasn't a timing mat was so useful.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just Seth and I
Yeah.
kind of running it home. Seth's telling me all about him playing NCAA 25, which just came out like a couple weeks before, and like all this stuff. And I'm not very responsive at that point. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like nodding my head, just like dying, and Seth's taking videos of us.
Yeah.
And the one I'm just like, you ready to be done? I'm like, I've never been more ready to be done in my entire life. And he's like
Yeah.
playing all this random music and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm so ready to be done.
That's
like,
fair. But luckily at this point, like, the weight's been lifted off my shoulder. I'm like, all right, there's 10 miles to go. Like, seeing you come into that aid station was just like, oh, I was also like, Ben, suck it. I told you would pull it out. So, thank goodness for that. It was funny. I should have, like, recorded that day as, like, a workout because my heart rate was, like, 90 beats per minute
yeah,
the whole day. So I was like, all right, well, I didn't run today, but I feel like I ran.
I like that.
So then, yeah, we run over, because since it was only 5 miles, we, like, had to book it back to the start-finish, which was nice because there wasn't, obviously, a ton of people there like there was at the start that morning. So we got a slightly closer parking spot, which was nice because I was like, man, I'm going to have to carry Heath to the car after this. It's like, I wanted to be close, so I'm going to have to do that.
That's hilarious. So even though it was like road sections, some of those uphills I like still had to walk.
That's fair.
It was rough. And then we
Yeah.
get to this one section where you have to cross this like pretty main intersections, definitely like 4 lanes. And as we're running up, there's this random dude, and he like hits the like walking thing to like cross. And I'm like, that's super random. So after the race, I found out it's this guy named Zeke Hamilton. He had ran 50K that I ran the winter beforehand.
Yeah.
And he had like he was running the 50K or the 50 miler or the 100 miler, and I think he DNF'd, but he like wanted to see the finish and see me finish. So I'm like, that's just so random that he thought like, oh, I'm gonna hit this thing, like, because we're still a couple miles out from the start finish at that point. But I saw him at the end. He told me, I'm like, oh, I knew you from somewhere. I'm like, thanks for doing that, so I didn't have to wait a couple minutes at the crosswalk or trying to get across whenever I can't really run too well. But before I got to the finish, Seth starts playing 7:12 p.m. by Future, which is kind of my anthem during races for the last like mile. So that was awesome. I still kept looking behind me, making sure no one was coming, because the last thing I want to do is lose a race in the last mile. My buddy Jeremy Pope won Burning River 100 one year by catching the dude with less than a mile to
Oh
go.
my gosh.
Yeah, the guy was in the lead for literally the whole race until less than a mile.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. So, end up running it in. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like I thought it was going to feel, and I think part of that was I didn't think I was going to win the whole time. Like, I wasn't
That's fair,
confident
yeah.
because I was down by so much and stuff, so it was like a relief whenever I passed and I won and stuff, but it was
Yeah.
just like, hey, I didn't feel it the whole time, and
That's fair. That makes
just thrown
sense.
off. But it was awesome seeing everyone at the finish. Like,
Yeah.
I think I said to Liv, like, I got so lucky, like,
Yeah.
that it happens, and
I said, no, you trained so hard.
yeah.
Both things can be true at the same time. Like, you
Absolutely.
never know. 100 miles is 100 miles.
It is a lot
So
of
much
things
can
can happen.
happen, yeah.
You're never out of the race, and you've never won the race until you cross the finish line.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was awesome seeing Dustin's family
Yeah,
there.
so many people were there.
Will Goss's like mom, Liv, Seth.
Brendan and Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Brendan and
Cody and Carlo.
Yes.
Probably more. I know.
Patty was there.
Pat was there. Ben was obviously there.
Yeah,
Probably some more.
it's a good time.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean, we
funny
didn't
because
stay
it's like,
long,
yeah,
yeah.
unlike marathons and stuff, like there was literally like no one there other than my friends and family
Yeah.
at the finish line, especially
Yeah.
that early. If you finish whenever a lot of the people were doing relays and stuff, there might be a lot more people there, but just literally like no one there,
Yeah.
which is fine. I don't do
Yeah,
it for
I
anybody
know.
else. I don't expect there to be.
Pomp and circumstance or pomp and is that pomp and circumstance? That's not what it's called. You don't know what I'm talking about. That's
No.
okay. It's a phrase. Well,
Okay.
and it's also a song.
But yeah,
Um,
good time.
Yeah, it was also interesting because I think some of Alec's crew was there and they saw you running up and they were like, or I don't know, I think they just knew Alec and knew that he was in first and they were like, wait a second, that's not Alec. And I was like,
They're
his
all a
name's
bunch of
Heath.
they're all a bunch of local people. And,
Oh, yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
they all know me as well. A lot of them are like the lawn wrangler
Oh, yeah,
people and
true.
stuff too. And Alec, like obviously talked to him after the race. He just had a super rough time with his stomach and stuff. He ended up getting third
Yeah.
overall. I think he ran a 16. I ended up finishing in 15:23.
Yeah.
And I think the second place ended up like 16:03. It was Eric, and then Alec.
Yeah.
I think Alec was a 16:33, I believe. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. So,
But yeah, I kind of got out of there quickly after because I had to work the next day
Yeah.
at noon. So I was like, I want to go home and relax a little bit and try not to die.
Literally. Well, what that ended up being is I dropped you off at the house for you to shower and went and got some Chinese and you took about 3 bites of the Chinese.
Mhm.
Oh, we talked about this last episode.
We did.
Yeah.
Tough time eating after ultras.
For you, I guess. I don't know.
For you, no?
I feel like I ate pretty normal, like right after Devil Dog, literally like 5 minutes after I finished.
That's fair.
Which is funny because if you would have asked me 5 minutes before I finished, I would have said, "Oh no, it's awful idea. I don't want to eat anything ever."
Yeah. I think some of that might come down to like the intensity though.
Fair,
Because
yeah.
like a lot of the end of the race, you were like walking and stuff. So
yeah.
like I think my stomach and I'm just so
Yeah,
hyped and stuff.
true.
At the end, it probably takes a little bit longer to kind of come down to that level.
You'd also probably consumed more in those 15 hours than I have during any of my races ever. I don't know.
Maybe not because it's so spread out.
That's true.
Calorie wise, I don't know. You don't
Calorie-wise.
eat a lot. I probably had 7,000 to 8,000 calories over the race,
Yeah.
which is kind of always my
Cool.
game plan.
I like it. Yeah.
But yeah, good time. So we got home. We're like, okay, cool. We're alive. We did what we wanted to do. And
Yeah. I just like was so relieved.
Yeah.
But I was just like, darn, it's already over.
Yeah.
Bummer.
And the thing is, I feel like you're probably way more stressed out than I was. 'Cause,
Oh,
like,
for sure, yeah.
I'm not stressed out because I'm in
No.
it. I just got to do what I can do. Like,
Yeah. It's just like weird only seeing you for like such short amount of time
Mhm.
and then be like, oh, I can't really gauge how well you're feeling. Like,
Yeah.
probably okay, probably not okay. Like, we'll see what happens. But I was just like making sure everything was nice and in order and like, all right, here's your 3 scoops of Tailwind. Sorry that it was 2 for those first 2 aid stations.
Yeah.
Couple questions.
Yes.
So you don't listen to music during it. What do you think about?
I didn't that race. Rabbit Raccoon, I listened to music
Okay.
for a good portion of it because I wasn't running with people.
Okay.
I don't know, anything and everything.
Is
and
it
nothing at the same time.
Is it like just because you were running with people? Is that why you didn't want your?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's rude if I'm gonna be running with people to put headphones in.
I guess. I don't know. I'd be like, I'm running the race. Brr, brr, brr.
Yeah, probably not. I don't know.
Um, there was something else that I was thinking. Vest. You have no regrets on not taking the vest.
No, not at all. It wasn't necessary at that point.
No.
And I don't wear a vest enough that I was insanely comfortable. It was only going to be I'm
Yeah.
wearing it if it's going to help me or if I'm going to need it for liquids. Because I didn't grab
Yeah.
it at mile 50 either for that back half.
True.
I'm like, there's enough aid stations. I'm seeing one every 5 miles. Like,
Okay.
I can fill up my two 24-ounce or 22-ounce bottles and have some little drinky drink at each of those aid
Yeah.
stations. And I was refilling my ice bandana at every single aid station
Yeah,
there
smart.
was possible, which was big, keeping me cool.
And you had some scratch during it because that was on course, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever they didn't have tailwind at the aid stations, which is fine. So I used scratch, which I'd never done before, but it was drinkable. It worked.
Yeah. How do you keep pushing yourself to go that fast? To like go at almost max effort? Like I don't know how you mentally just like.
It hurts the same if I go
I-
slower.
I
So
guess.
you get it done sooner. Like I said, my quads are killing me, but like if I walked, my quads literally hurt the same. So
Okay.
like there was no point of not trying to go faster.
Yeah. Did you have any stomach issues during?
No, not except when I used the bathroom like right off the rip at mile 13. That was like the only time I really remember.
Okay.
Maybe I was a little bit on and off was why I stopped eating so many honey stinger waffles.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, no more. I was like, take them out of everything. No more honey stinger
More
waffles.
precision in.
More precision.
Yeah.
And the precision I think worked well. Like you ate a lot of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I think is a good tip is like when you're eating throughout races, like spread it out enough that your stomach has time to settle. And whenever you're drinking, do the same thing. Don't drink 20 ounces of fluid at one time. Drink 10 sips of 2 ounces over a 20-minute time span. It's going to be a lot easier on your stomach. Just always be sipping.
Always be sipping. I
Always
like
be
it.
sipping.
Yeah. And do you feel like when you walk the hills, like it keeps your heart rate lower instead of if you were to run them, and then you're like more gassed for
Absolutely.
everything else?
Yeah, and I always use the uphills when I'm walking to consume calories, drink some,
Smart. I like it.
pray to God.
Yeah, be like, get me up this hill, pretty please.
Pretty please.
Maybe if I could pull out a win, that'd be like kind of cool, you know. Because your goal finish time was 15:20.
It
You
was.
finished in 15:23.
So I missed it.
Darn. Guess you got to run it back.
Yeah, I'll run it again this year.
How do you like calculate those times?
I used the calculator.
Well,
a lot beforehand. I'm like, okay, if I run at this pace, this will put me here. This is what I ran last year. These are kind of the conditions. An hour added to the back half sounds reasonable. If I have a good front half, like I'm going to be slowing down a good bit. So this is where I think I need to be. A lot of it was based off what I ran last year. I think I ran a 16:33, 16:34 last year. So I'm like, okay, better shape, better day.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do.
True. Does your headlamp ever hurt your head?
Not really with that hat on. Like I didn't realize it.
Because I was gonna say, like, I feel like usually, like, as soon as it's laid out, I like tear mine off. But like, I just don't know if it just like didn't register.
Going into the
because
aid
it doesn't
station, I
hurt.
probably had 1,000 things on my mind.
That's
I don't
fair,
think
yeah.
I was even remembered at all, like in the middle that I had it on until you guys said something.
Yeah. Is there anything you wish you could have done differently looking back?
It's a good question.
Thank you. I just thought of it.
Not really. I think I ran my race and I think I fueled well. I think everything went to plan.
Did you think rolling out sooner would make any difference on your quads? Or do you think that just kind of is what it is?
Probably not. I think it helps more whenever they already start hurting. I think maybe running more downhills in preparation for the race would have helped some.
Fair.
A bit more elevation training or a bit more harder runs on harder surfaces.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
One last question. You wear your hair in a bun. Are you ever concerned that the bun's gonna fall out?
No, I put like enough hair ties in there that
I guess, but like it doesn't like jostle at all. Like while you run, like it doesn't move.
I don't really realize it. If it does,
Because
it
I
might.
feel like it's so like I have to be so precise with when I put my hair in a bun for runs because it just like
I
bounces
think
and
I put
flops
like
in the back.
3 hair ties in there. You just
Okay.
do one. You're just like, oh, one's enough.
I do two, but I guess
Triple it up.
three is the answer.
Triple up the bun.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Well,
How about for you? Would you change anything about that race? Would you like not have any caffeine to keep your heart rate a bit lower?
probably, yeah. Honestly, I didn't finish that cup of coffee, but I also was like so tired that I was like, a cup of coffee seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
I also like just ate a lot of like brownies and stuff like that day,
Nice.
and I think that didn't help with my escalated heart rate.
I don't think you offered me a brownie the whole race.
That's rude of me, I know, and I'll do better next time. I'll just like shove them in your mouth and be like, take it, and you're gonna be like, ah, and I'm gonna be like, you were upset that I didn't offer it to you last time. So
That's fair.
that's what you get. Brownie in the mouth. So yeah, that's the only thing I can think of for me personally.
Okay.
Maybe would have tied my hair up that day because it was really hot and my hair just kept getting in my way.
So we will go ahead and ask if anyone has any questions for us about this race or anything they would like us to answer going forward. Go ahead and put that in chat.
In the comments.
In the comments, yeah.
I don't believe there is a chat.
Yeah, comments on whatever site you're watching. And then we'll go with the question of the day. With the Ultra Running Magazine's top 10, who do you think is the most underrated runner based on what their rank was?
Okay, I like
on
it.
That.
I like that a lot.
And explain to me why you don't think it was Jim Walmsley, because getting put 8th is a crime against humanity.
I was waiting for you to say that. I like it. All right, well, I guess we will catch everyone next week or whenever we record another episode.
Yeah, probably next week.
Yeah. And until then, keep running.
Peace out, Girl Scout.